Okay, so let's look at reporting and metrics. Projects involve a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort. And as such, your beneficiaries, your stakeholders, they're very interested to see what progress you're making. And the way by which you keep your stakeholders and your beneficiaries informed are by way of producing various reports and metrics. And so a report and a set of metrics are looking at the project and talking about where they're at that specific time. What are the various interesting aspects of the project that people are interested in? Talking about progress, talking about status, talking about reports on resources, all sorts of things. Very much depends on what it is that that organization has decided to keep an eye on. So and you also have metrics that will also look at performance indicators, giving you a sense of, well, if that's happening, then surely we can assume that something else is happening. So as the phrase suggests, it's an indication of performance. Okay, so that kind of like is a loose definition of what metrics do as well. So let's look at some example of reports. Now, we're not going to look at some examples here. What I'm just going to do is just really talk about some really standard reports that you can find in the project environment. Status reports, they're the most common type. And what they do is they show the audience where the project is as at the date that that report was generated. It could be a dashboard type situation, and what tends to be involved in a status report is as at that date where the project is at in terms of its schedule, what are its top risks, what are its top issues, if there are any decisions that need to be made, basically giving an insight into that. We'll also talk about how much money has been spent to date, how much money is being forecasted, and any major actions that need to take place. So that's kind of like an idea of what a status report could look like. Now, phase gate reviews or stage gate reviews within every delivery framework is something called a project life cycle. So we just looked at Prince 2, we looked at managing successful programs, we looked at even the Scrum framework. Within those, you're going to find a roadmap of sorts. Okay, now for a project to move from one phase to the next phase, it should ideally be passing through stage gates or phase gates. Okay, sometimes it's referred to as stage gates, sometimes it's referred to as checkpoints, but basically what's happening there at each of these gates, the project senior stakeholders meet with the project team to see if indeed there is still a need for this project. It's an opportunity for everybody to check in. Are we still aligned with corporate values? Does the organization still need it? Is this project, is it all right to release yet another tranche of maybe thousands or millions of money? Okay, so at that point, there is a review that needs to take place, and the project lead will share that review with the audience, and they will have that conversation. And essentially, that phase that they've just completed will be reviewed, and they will be given the pass to move to the next phase or next stage. Then we have the plan on a page report, which is a high-level view of a project, program, or portfolio plan. It usually contains milestones. It will contain key dates for each of the activities that need to be delivered. It will talk about what's been achieved, what's going to be achieved in the next tranche of work. It will have finish dates, it could also have an indication of resources and costs. We also have something called a resource report, which would detail all the resources being used for that particular project or program. So people's time, materials that are being used, software being attained, anything that's basically being bought would be detailed in this resource report. Then we have the risk and issue report, and that gives us an insight into the project's risks and issues, what the status of these risks and issues are, who owns them, who's managing them, are they red, are they green, are they amber? So red being that, okay, we're going to really look at this. Green being that, oh, yes, we have identified the risk, but it's okay the way it is. Amber being that, okay, let's not wait for this to become red, let's do something about it. So that's usually detailed in the risk and issue report. And then finally, we have what could be sort of like a project cost, project budget, project finance report, and what that will do is detail the budget planned for the project. Essentially, you will have your budget sliced up into different kind of like segments. So let's say you've got £1,000. So of that £1,000, you might be in stage 1 of your project. How much have you spent? Are you on track? Are there any differences between where you should be and where you currently are? How much are you forecasting to spend? Are you forecasting to spend exactly what you have, or do you anticipate needing something else? All of this is kind of like rolled up into a project finance report. Project finance is probably not the right phrase that is used in the project environment. Tends to be project costs or project budget, that sort of thing, because project finances actually mean something else. And essentially what the report is doing, it is informing all that are all its audience that this is where we're at. We're either on track or we're off track, and what do we need to do about it? So these are just basic or standard reports that you might find in a project environment. Definitely you'll find status reports. You should really find phase gates reports and stage gates reports. You'll definitely find a plan on a page report, risks and issues definitely. And definitely a project sort of like project costing report or project budget report. But sometimes you might find that all of these are all mixed together as a full kind of like deck of reports, but essentially these are the various aspects of projects that we track regularly.